the other game on Friday night, which with much bigger national implications, and we'll talk the last Pac-12 championship game ever. Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC between Oregon and Washington. Oregon, 9.5-point favorite here. Under is ticked down to from 68.5 to 65.5. Unprecedented situation here where you have a top 5 team that is undefeated as that won the regular season meeting as an underdog of more than a touchdown in the conference championship game. Now, we have seen 2 other teams in their conference championship that were ranked in the top 5 and undefeated be underdogs of 7 or more. Only happened twice prior. Alabama was undefeated in number 1. They were plus 10 against Florida in 2008, lost by 11, but they didn't play in the regular season. And then in 2020, COVID year, when Notre Dame was in the ACC, they were number 2 and undefeated in the ACC championship game. They were plus 11.5 against Clemson, and they lost by 24. So neither covered. Why this situation is different is, yes, Notre Dame did beat Clemson during the regular season, but if you recall, Trevor Lawrence didn't play in that first meeting. So this is a very unique situation. Casual recreational bettors is probably going to jump off the page, this line, right? You say, wow, this team is undefeated, top 5. They already beat them, and now they're catching 9.5 on a neutral field. I think that 15 years ago, this line would have been 3. We could have bet Oregon, but the market is much more efficient now. You also have all these like tout groups that used to wait until like Thursdays to release their plays. Everything is out now. I mean, look, the people make their living how they're going to make their living, and then it's always a race and a competitive market. So everyone is trying to get ahead of everyone else. And now all these plays go out on like Mondays, and then the market just gets ruined so much earlier.
I still contend that's our fault, that it's the Action Network having an app that blasts out. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah, so it's the market gets beat up so much earlier when it's harder to bet. A lot of professional bettors out there are not too happy about that, but the market's evolving, you got to adjust. So this and the market just overall, and with legalization has sped this up as well. The market overall is just much more efficient. So in this game, I mean, look, Washington's defense is bad. They're second worst line yards, 115th in tackles for loss, 10th in explosive. The one thing they do well is they don't allow explosive plays. They're 10th in explosiveness allowed, but that doesn't really matter against Oregon. Oregon gets their explosive plays through like short passing game, broken tackles. They're not trying to chuck it downfield. The Washington defense, though, it has improved a bit of late. Carson Bruner playing more has really helped. I don't know why he wasn't playing all year, but they've gotten a little bit healthier, changed their safety orientation. So their defense has actually played a little bit better of late, but their offense just hasn't been the same overall since the Oregon game, really, if you go back. And it's just not really in rhythm and humming as we saw when Penix and those receivers were just destroying everyone on a weekly basis. If you look at these two teams, I mean, Oregon is clearly better from a power ratings perspective. Just if you look at any surface statistics, if you look at they have 7 common opponents. Oregon won by an average of 20 points, Washington 7. Even when they played each other, that game, that game was in Seattle, and Oregon probably should have won. They outgained them. They just couldn't convert a 4th down. I think Oregon gets their revenge here. I don't see any value in the line. I mean, it's just a really sharp number. I used Oregon as a money line piece to like bring down some NFL money lines. I also think it is really intriguing. I don't know if you can someone sent me a ticket. I don't really bet the Heisman, but someone sent me a ticket. They parlayed Bo Nix, Heisman, and Bo Nix, and then Oregon to make the playoff. I didn't know you could do that, and that paid like plus 150. And yeah, if Oregon wins this game, they're making the playoff, in my opinion. And if Oregon wins this game, I think Bo Nix is winning the Heisman. Now, you're betting on a subjective award, right? But I mean, Daniels is the only other. Penix and Daniels, the only other guys in the conversation. Daniels isn't playing, and if Penix loses the Knicks, he's not surpassing him. So I think that's the more prudent approach if you like Oregon to win, is bet Nix to win the Heisman. Because the way that I say it, if Oregon wins, Nix is winning the Heisman. I like Oregon to win, but very sharp number. I lean under here. I played under in the first matchup. Probably the wrong play, even though it had a chance to win. But this is a fast track, and there could be a lot of explosive plays. So the numbers come down. I wish I had if I had a 68 or better, I would have played the under. If there's a quick score or something, I might look live for the under. But yeah, Oregon money line, some places I'm probably look to bet Nix Heisman. If I liked Oregon, if I were listening. What do you see here between Washington and Oregon in the Pac-12 title?
Well, I think we should start off with why Washington is 9.5 or 10 in the market. First off, is Michael Penix healthy? There are rumors floating around that he's hurt. I took it as an emotional thing when he came off the field, that he just couldn't watch what was happening against Washington State. So we'll see if he's actually physically got any problems, whether he's hurt. That could be, one of the many factors why this line has gone up so high. There's also
been explain why the offense just hasn't been the same of late.
Right, exactly. And there's just been so many consecutive big games in a row here. Can you believe that their biggest margin of victory over like the last 5 weeks is USC by 10? They beat Washington State by 3, Oregon State by 2, Utah by a TD, Stanford by 9, Arizona State by 6. How many games? That's 6 games. I mean, USC by 10 is their best win over the last second half of the season. So, I mean, really, they're sputtering out. Don't know if it's tired. Don't know if it's conference scheduling. Penix had 3 turnover-worthy plays against Washington State. If you turn over to Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator for Washington, he says in the press conference, Washington State had all of our plays, all of our signals. I had to change everything at halftime. Not sure it made much of a difference. They still needed a field goal to win that game. Also, yes, they have been lucky. I've already, got all the calculations for second order win total to start adjustments for power ratings next year. Washington's true record is not 12-0. It's 10-2. They've been one of the luckiest teams when it comes to second order win total, which is just a Pythag way of looking at points for and points against. So, the defense has problems. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I mean, Chuck Morrell's 2-4-5 defense is just not getting it done. They're near dead last in stuff rate. Tackle grading is the reason Oregon's going to win this game. Washington's 130th in broken tackles allowed. You can't do that against Oregon. Oregon is second nationally in creating broken tackles with Bucky Irving, Franklin. Washington, if you go game by game, see how many tackles they missed 18 in their week 7 game against Oregon. So, that's another game that Washington wouldn't have won if Dan Lanning didn't go 0-for-3 on 4th down. So, Oregon's gotten better. They're 3rd in offensive momentum killer. We know that looks at things like, did you have an INT? Did you have a 10-yard penalty? All kinds of things. Oregon doesn't do anything to hurt themselves whatsoever. When we podcasted about this in week 7, Washington was number 1 in the nation offensive momentum killer. They're now 22nd. So the data, the stats, everything backs up why this number is the way that it is. And I've said this over and over everywhere I can be. Bo Nix is playing a flawless season. 3 turnover-worthy plays and 425 dropbacks this year. He finally had his highest number of rushing attempts against Oregon State last week. He had 2 scrambles and 3 designed yards. He's been averaging about 15 yards per game, but you and I both know he can run a lot. If they give him the call and they put the design, if Lanning decides it's time for him to run, we've saved him all year for this. That is an element that Oregon has not flashed that we know is there. So when it comes to betting this game, I'm not so much as in the, parlaying the Bo Nix Heisman. I'm not so much into the Oregon money line. I think Washington has an attempt to backdoor this. So I'm not going to mess with the 9.5 and 10. I will not be shocked if Washington finds a way to cover this game, but I think Oregon futures are ripe. They're at 5-1. Now, if we follow Brett's bowl predictions, if we follow where they're going to fall in the seeding, it looks like Michigan, Oregon. Could be Rose Bowl, could be Sugar, probably Rose. I've got Oregon favored by a point over Michigan. So I'm going to take 5-1. I've already bought them at 30-1. I bought them at 20-1. I bought them at 10-1. If you don't have an Oregon national title future, there's 5-1s out there. And I think they'll be favored by 1 point over Michigan. That's a good ticket to have for a national title at this point in the season. So we're going to play Bo Nix. I took the under too, by the way, Stuck under 66.5. 65 is key in that range. So look at the under there. If they both run, then it's going to go under. But think about this too. I'm not sure if I'm going to play it here. I'm not sure if I'm going to play it against Michigan. I'm not sure if I'm going to play in the national title game. But Bo Nix rushing props are coming on the over at some point. Bo Nix anytime TD, sign me up. Bo Nix over rushing. Lanning knows he's got that in his back pocket. It's just a matter of when he's going to implement it.
Yeah, I would agree there. I think it's worth a look, but it also might be worth waiting, and if they don't need it this week, and then it's something they unleash for, Michigan or Georgia. So I agree. We'll keep our eyes there. By the way, I expect Lanning to stick to his guns, be aggressive on fourth downs, and don't be surprised if all the fourth downs break Oregon's way after that first meeting. Washington opponents on the year, 13 of 33 on fourth down for that defense that can't stop anyone up front. 13 of 33. One of the luckiest teams on fourth downs in the country. And by the way, Washington's got 10 of 13. So combined, 23, let's see, 30 of 45 of their fourth downs have gone their way on offense and defense combined.
How excited do you think Dan Lanning would be if they drew Georgia, considering what other quarterbacks have done to Georgia, like the Peyton Thorns of the world? Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
all
that
right.
would be the next.
Look ahead, but
yeah, that would be the next rushing prop bonanza